Welcome to That Guy Talks Movies. I am That Guy Talking Movies, and on this episode, we are going to talk about the latest biopic. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of biopics. They just haven't been very good lately. So, Amy Winehouse, I'm an Amy Winehouse fan, and I was looking forward to this. This is Back to Black. We're going to get right into it. This is directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, screenplay by Matt Greenhall, and it stars Marissa Abela in the title role of Amy Winehouse, with a supporting cast of Eddie Morrison playing her father, and Jack O'Connell playing her husband Blake. Now, I will say from the start that I think Marissa Abela pulled off the job she needed to pull off. I think sometimes she was slightly too pretty. Amy Winehouse was pretty in her way, okay? But I think there was something about her jaw and something and some a tooth thing where they should have probably figured out how to do that, and it would have really sold it even further because it is uncanny at times, especially at certain angles. And she did all the vocals for this, and she pulled it off. Not perfectly, not to the point where you're like, oh my God, but enough that she did her freaking job as an actor, and she pulled it off. And that really holds it down. As far as the story goes, I think as far as acting goes, the guy who played her husband, Jack O'Connell's the actor, he was pretty stole the show at some point, like in the beginning when they first meet. He was like a smooth kind of like Steve McQueen 1960s kind of guy, and he really did a great job. Eddie Morrison is always great. He plays her father. Now, as far as story goes, it's a biopic, so it's going to do the typical thing where it's, here's this young talent or whatever it is, and they're looking to get their chance and whatever, and they go through drama, and then they eventually make it, and then there's like some fall. Now, obviously, this is one of those downfalls where it's a tragic ending to a person's life, a young person who dies and enters the 27 club, which is, all these famous people who died, Morrison and all these people who died, Hendrix, who died at 27 years old. And she joins that club, Janis Joplin. So you're watching the decline. Like we kind of know because there was that documentary that came out. I forgot the exact name, but there was a documentary that came out, I think 5 years ago about Amy Winehouse. And that, used archive footage and different things put together, and it told the story of her and her decline. This, I feel, the issue is, because obviously I don't need to go into the story and what it's about. It's about Amy Winehouse. Okay. And Amy Winehouse suffered from alcoholism and drug addiction, which many say her husband is the one who led her down that path of heroin, cocaine, and whatever other substances that she got into. She eventually died of alcohol poisoning. The issue with this is not that it's a bad movie, but it definitely feels as if it skirted a lot of the depth of this person's decline and the battles that they were dealing with. So it wasn't a hard look at anything, and it didn't really grab you in that way. There were also multiple things that they left out as far as her doing self-harm and cutting herself and all these things. And that wasn't, I don't even think they barely touched on that. I think there's a couple of scenes where she's scratching her leg or her thigh or something, or her hand. So they left some things out. They left, her being booed and having all these problems at different venues when she had concerts. I mean, they touched it for 2 seconds, but it was the wrong way. It had nothing to do with, her being intoxicated and having problems on stage and canceling shows. And they left out the fact that the Grammys, the reason why she wasn't at the Grammys is because of a drug situation where she couldn't get the passport or whatever. She couldn't get into the country. So they left a lot of things out. Now, people who know the story and have heard the rumors, and I think it was alluded to in that documentary that I mentioned previously, that the father and the husband were, there was a lot of control issues and all these different things happening. And there's stuff that this film did not touch on. And I think it was just a matter of Matt Greenhall and Sam Taylor Johnson wanting to kind of keep away from that. Like, we're not going to have the family, come at us, and we don't want to do anything like that. They're not trying to portray the picture in a particular way that was really deep and dark. I personally feel it should have been a much darker film if you consider her, right? And that's without exploiting the situation, exploiting the artist, or taking away the beauty of her work and her contribution to music and who she was and how talented she was. It's half of that. Half of it, if not more, was fueled by the darkness that's underneath it. And that's usually the case in a lot of these super talented artists. Now, I often refer to one of my favorite biopics being The Doors, which Oliver Stone did, and Morrison's, alcoholism. That film, just from the moment it opens up with the music, the soundtrack, and him as a boy and seeing the accident on the side of the road and the way it's psychedelic way of bringing you into his world, to his mind and all the craziness and the chaos along with the talent. Watching the audience go along with him while he's performing, when he performs the end for the first time at Whiskey A Go-Go. Stuff like that. Really, you got the depth of it. You got the relationship with his wife and the random women. It was dark. It was, I feel like Amy Winehouse needed to be a story here that was much darker, that did touch on the drugs and the self-harm and the abuse and the things that were taking place in her life. And it really should have been that tale. Now, to be fair, this is a film that when I look at the films that I've critiqued in the past, for example, Bob Marley most recently, and the Whitney Houston film most recently, and then also my anxiety over what's going to happen with the Michael Jackson pick that's set to be released next year. I think in those cases, those were such huge, iconic stars, global stars that had massive careers that extended a long period of time. So obviously it's much harder to do that. In this case, Amy's career, as profound as her impact was and what she left, she wasn't around that long, right? So she doesn't have, multiple albums and all these things and this huge, bigger than life presence and stuff. So this should have been easier to do, and I could be a little more forgiving of this as a biopic, because you really didn't need to cover like multiple decades of a person's life and how global of an icon they were. She was just getting to that point. So I say all that simply to say it's not a bad watch, right? It's not terrible. It's not, why did I watch this? And if you're an Amy Winehouse fan, you want to watch this, you should definitely go see it. I just think it should have been done much darker, and I think a little more, it should have been a little more disturbing, and it would have worked better to really hammer home her significance and her talent. It would have worked as a whole. You can't have one without the other. You can't lightly touch on things and then kind of make them less gritty, and at the same point try to make the talented side really, because they coincided, they went together. There was a yin and the yang here. Should have been a darker film. That's just my take. That's my opinion. All right. That Guy Talks Movies. I'm done. Let me know if you're going to see the movie. Let me know if you've already seen it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you understand my take on, I believe it should have been darker. I just think it should have been a much more, you should come out of that film and feel like what you just saw was the brilliance cut short too soon, a beautiful talent cut short way too soon. And you should have seen what contributed to that and understood it. And you should have reflected in it and felt like, my God, and you should have got a sense of that. And it didn't, to me, that didn't really happen. It was very surface. That's the way I'm going to say it. It was very surface. Anyway, not a bad movie. Go ahead and see it. Again, let me know in the comments below. Oh, and if you've not subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button right there. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button on the way out if you like this video. I truly appreciate that. It helps the YouTube algorithm and all the crazy stuff that goes on behind the scene here. So if you hit that like button, truly appreciate it. To my subscribers who always stick with me, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. I will see you on the next That Guy Talks Movies.